All right, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It is your host, B-Ball Archives, aka Rob, and I'm with my good buddy AJ, and we're getting ready to talk some basketball. I'm excited.
Yeah, big time hoops over here. That's for sure.
Oh yeah,
I'm pumped about this.
Oh yeah,
it is early in the morning, but we are hyped.
Yeah, let's get into it. So we are big time Spurs fans. So we are going to talk a little Spurs basketball, but we're also going to talk some broad NBA topics as well. So a little something for everybody. First things first, we are going to get into some Steph Curry conversation. We've been talking. We've been hearing a lot of people talking about Steph. Obviously, they won the championship recently. There's
Congrats to them.
Yes, congrats to the Warriors. I mean, obviously, as Spurs fans, we are a little salty about that.
At least Steve Kerr got another one, right?
Yeah, at least Steve Kerr got another one for sure. But yeah, everyone's talking about Steph Curry and what this means for his legacy. What this Finals MVP kind of getting over that hump a little bit. Life after KD. So a lot of people are having him top 10 now. How are you feeling about that? Where
I can see the argument for sure. I can definitely see why they're saying top 10 for Steph, because obviously his resume speaks for itself. He's a four-time champion now.
Yep, four-time champ.
League MVP, Finals MVP, countless three-pointers. I would not be surprised if he's able to play longevity. He might end up being another points breaker. Very possible with the way he shoots three-pointers. Is he top 10? For me, no.
For you, no.
He's not yet. And the only reason why I say that is because I think it has a lot more to do with the offense that they're running. I mean, they built perfectly through the draft. They built absolutely perfectly. But I think it also has to do with Steve Kerr, giving him the ability to shoot those three-pointers and changing the game the way that he has. I don't think any other coach would have been, yeah, go ahead, Steph, pull up from 30.
Okay, that's a good take. That's an interesting take on it. So you feel as if Steve Kerr kind of gave Curry the license to sort of be himself, gave him that freedom.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Mark Jackson put him on the bench for doing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that a lot of coaches, I think, would have just definitely turned a blind eye to, or not turned a blind eye to, I should say, and just let him go, which, you have to do with a shooter like Steph.
Yeah.
I just think that there is more players that we're not talking about back in the 80s and 90s that are still in the top 10, in my opinion.
Okay. That makes all the sense in the world. I feel like there's some players that he's so close with when you're talking about skill-wise. But I feel like Steph Curry's impact on the game and how it's played when you look at the past decade of basketball is really on a level where only several players have impacted the game like that, and where the game hasn't been played the same since they became dominant. And I feel like he's one of them, and because of that reason alone, I have to put him in my top 10 at number 10.
Okay.
At number 10 right now, he is at number 10 for me.
I can see that. I think if Steph Curry was doing what he's doing, but back when we were younger, I think he would have been more of an influence on me, because I'm not that tall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So whenever he gave me the license to shoot without having to worry about anything, then absolutely let's go ahead and do it. I do think he's changed the game 100%. Like I said, if I was younger and I saw Steph Curry pulling up from half court and making these shots and then all these other videos going viral, I think that would have definitely changed my mind of going from basketball to band. I probably would have stuck with basketball through high school.
Hell yeah.
So I definitely see the influence, but I also think it's hurting our younger kids in basketball, and that's the part that kind of frustrates me being a Spurs fan, because you see fundamentals and you know how the game's played. Now every other day on TikTok you see a video of some kid stealing the ball and then stopping at the 3-point line and busting a three, and you're going, I would have been benched like immediately after that.
Absolutely.
Even if it went in. And there's no consequences anymore for those types of plays. So it's just it's definitely different now with him at the top of the NBA. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it's really helped the NBA evolve a lot. But what you said really is a really true point, and it's changed youth basketball and how players are seeing the game. When they're in elementary school, middle school, and high school, they're thinking the 3-pointer is where you should start the game, and that's where you can kind of get in trouble. It's the 3-pointer really isn't a part of the fundamentals. That's something you should learn after you've kind of mastered your form. You're a good ball handler. You have good control over yourself when you can move around the court, and people are wanting to just kind of dive into that and act like it's an elementary skill when it's really not.
It's not at all. But I think it's mostly American basketball players that are influenced the most.
That's true.
I think European players, they still have the fundamentals of, we're going to run ladders. We're going to get the ball at the baseline, dribble to the free throw line, stop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. Then we're going to turn around and do it with the left hand. I think they're still doing those drills.
Yeah.
Steph Curry is a hell of a talent. Like, he is one of the most fun players to watch in the NBA right now, 100%. I'm curious to know what happens here in this next part of his career because, he kind of lost it like a half a step. He's not really getting to the hoop the way that he used to.
Yeah.
But he can still shoot lights out.
Oh, of course.
And then, but kind of going back to the youth stuff, whenever you see Steph Curry sitting on the baseline shooting up shots or in the stands throwing up shots, it's fun to watch. But then once again, the kids are looking at that going, "Oh, I can do that," and then it's just I don't know, man. It's you're not going to have another player like Kobe or Jordan if Steph's leading the way in the game. In my opinion, does that make sense?
No, it makes sense entirely because the way teams are successful just looks completely different.
Yeah,
and I have just a couple of quick little stats that kind of illuminate some of this 3 points, just absolute surge since Steph has become relevant. The last place team, the last place 3-point shooting team in 2011, 2012. 12% of their offense came from threes. The last place team last year, 30% of their offense came from threes.
Oh my God!
So it's literally night and day. It's literally tripled the amount of threes that these teams are taking, and even more so. I'm looking at some of these stats, and only one team's offense used was more than 30%. From 3 in 2011, 2012, and just last year, all but 4 teams were above 30.
Jeez.
So this 3-point shooting is not just with the Golden State Warriors. Every team is adopting this 3-first mindset, and it's going to be crazy to see how the game sort of jumps from this point.
Also another thing to think about too, and I think this is kind of going to the generation of Steph Curry's, Klay Thompson's, KDs and those guys, they grew up playing video games. So
absolutely.
So it was dunks and 3-pointers.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we're seeing in the NBA right now. We are seeing dunks and 3-pointers, and there's really no in between after that.
Yeah.
It is highly entertaining for sure, which is why we're getting 120, 130 point games. But the thing with the 3-pointer, that's why the Spurs were left so behind. After we lost Kawhi, we were just behind on, we just didn't have any, we weren't a 3-point shooting first team. Yeah. And we're still not, to be honest with you. But I think it's starting to grow more on Pop. Pop's a hard ass, so he's starting to come around for sure. And I think with this new squad, we should see more and more 3-pointers, or at least people getting more slack in order to shoot those 3-pointers. I'd imagine it's not going to be like Tony Parker whenever he was a rookie in second year, when Pop would just have him on just the tightest leash.
Yeah. those days are done. People
Yeah.
are given more freedom to shoot threes and to really display whether or not they're going to be a 3-point threat or it's something that they'll need to work on. But the 3-pointer, it's now it's viewed as something. It used to be viewed as something either you're good at, so you'll do it, and if you're not good, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But now, if you're not good at it, you're going to keep improving and you're still taking threes. Like
Right.
there's people who aren't good at threes that still take threes in the hopes that they're going to improve to the point where they'll be a viable 3-point option.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, there's no players like. I mean, Rudy Gobert is on an island by himself. Like, I can't think of anyone at the top of my head who is like Rudy Gobert who doesn't shoot 3-pointers. Because I feel like everyone shoots 3-pointers now. Like, Chet coming into lead is what, 7-1?
Yeah.
And he's busting 3-pointers left and right.
Oh yeah.
So, Giannis is starting to shoot a lot more 3-pointers, get a little more efficient at it. He still needs some work, but I mean, I just can't think of another player. Like back in the 90s, no one shot 3-pointers. If you're a power forward or center, like that's why Tim Duncan's 3-pointer against the Suns was so special because he didn't do that.
Right.
He did not shoot 3-pointers, and he's like, I have the shot, I'm open, I'm taking it, and he's so clutch that he made it. But
in fact, if I recall correctly, that was the first 3 he had made that entire season.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
That just says everything about Tim Duncan right there. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to show up and do the unexpected in the most casual way, but it'll be exactly when you need it.
oh yeah, he was
Tim Duncan.
He was definitely not the first option for that play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's it's so true. Yeah, threes they are just taking over the NBA. But
and
there's also something else that is taking over the NBA as well.
What's that?
Triple doubles.
Ooh, fun topic.
Triple doubles are taking over the NBA, and we are seeing an incredibly large amount of them over the last several years. Primarily because of Russell Westbrook. I'm looking at the numbers from triple doubles recently, and we look at the season leaders. Jokic actually led last year with 19.
Shout out to Jokic.
But Russell Westbrook the year before that 38.
Jesus.
Doncic the year before that 17, and then it's Russell Westbrook for 5 years straight at 34, 25, 42, 18, 11. And then there we see a pretty big drop off. So I feel like the NBA over the last several years, it seems to be coinciding with the surgence of the 3.
100%. Yeah.
And I feel like also that, along with the fact that big men are now passing, and now that they're getting players open, creating more assist opportunities, and that's just opening up the game for everybody.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And so you have these large amounts of triple doubles. I mean, obviously Russell Westbrook's leading the way in this category, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy the amount of stats that people are putting up now. How are you feeling about this?
That's a heavy question, my friend. Heavy question. But I would say I do feel that triple doubles are relevant to an extent, but they're also very irrelevant in my opinion too. Like if you're putting up great numbers, that's awesome, and you're doing triple doubles, but how are you doing it? What's your efficiency rating as well? Like what's your plus minus along with that? Because I mean, with Russ, if I'm not mistaken, he had over a 200 minus last year, but he was in a rough situation. I get it, but it kind of goes to show you, like, how are you getting those rebounds? Like, are you getting those rebounds and stealing them from other people? Are these assists? I mean, the assists I think are the most glaring in my opinion, because everyone's getting rebounds regardless. But now the assists, because guards specifically, and shout out to Jokic, did not know that he led the league last year, but
absolutely.
Now guards, especially in Westbrook and the Thunder offense back in the day, he would get the ball and just nose down all the way to the hoop and basically have 4 shooters around the perimeter. Maybe he would have like Steven Adams down low that he could dish to too. But I mean, I just think it has to go hand in hand with the 3-pointers It has to go with the way that the game is called nowadays, and also just has to go with that the lanes aren't clogged anymore. Like back in the early 2000s and the 90s, those lanes were clogged. Like you're not getting around Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, Shaq. I mean, the list goes on and on. I even put Zydrunas Ilgauskas as well.
Yeah.
Big Z.
Shout out Big Z.
You're not getting around him either. So just like those players, I think definitely changed the way the game. When you take those players out of the paint, it kind of frees everyone up because I think it's a lot video game culture.
Yeah.
It's dunks and threes. So they're driving to the basket and kicking out to the open person. So are they empty stats? You would have to dig into the plus minus. If we're talking Westbrook specifically, I think they're empty stats. But with Jokic, I think those are more because a lot of those triple doubles, I'm sure, came with wins.
Yeah. I mean, I think you are bringing up such an amazing point, and that's how are you getting these triple doubles, and is it leading to success, or is it just glorifying your own stat sheet? And I think unfortunately we have a lot of players nowadays that are viewing their stats and triple doubles as a way to just get that bag. They're trying to get paid, and I don't hate that one bit, but it leads to this just influx of stats that just kind of are misleading. I'm looking at the number of triple doubles when you look at seasons. In 2013, 2014, there was only 46 triple doubles. Last year, there was 130.
Oh my god!
So it's the amount of triple doubles and the amount of people that are able to do this is increasing.
These stats are insane.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different game, and it also goes with how many points are being scored too. Mm-hmm. So if you're scoring 30 more points a game, then those points and assists have to come from somewhere.
Yeah, the opportunities for those assists are going to be there, and that means more misses, more shots, more opportunities for easy rebounds. And so it's, it makes sense all the way around when you look at it. So I was, I still don't want to take anything away from a triple double, because getting a triple double is a hard feat. I played basketball for almost 2 decades, and I never got a triple double.
You never had one?
No, I never had more than 7 assists in a game.
Really?
No, like I had one game where I had 7 assists and I freaked out, and I was like, dude, I'm like John Stockton now. Like I am Steve Nash now. I'm practically that person.
That's surprising. I didn't know that you never had triple double.
No, there was maybe like 24 games where I had double doubles all in a row with points and rebounds, but I just never had this assist like that.
I mean, going back to the game itself, I mean that was back in the mid, I guess, thousands going into the teens or the tens and teens. So like at the time, like you weren't on the perimeter very much. No. Like you were down low, feed the ball to Rob, turn around, maybe a step, layup. If it's there, kick it out. But I know playing with you that if you don't trust teammates, it's hard for you to like give up that rock, especially when you're in your prime like that.
Right.
Like that was just not a thing.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it's about like knowing who your teammates are and like what is kind of needed in the situation. And I was like, well, a lot of times I played with a lot of really good guys, but it sounds arrogant to say, but the best situation was me with the ball, like going at the basket, and it just made sense. So,
and that's how you got to the line too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would know a thing or two. Oh yeah. By the way, side note, should we tell the story real quick?
What's up? Okay. All right. Fuck it. Let's just do it.
All right. So one time during college, I decided to get a job as a basketball ref. Shout out to Texas Tech. Recreational sports, something like that.
Wreck 'em.
Yeah. So Rob and I were hanging out one day, and he was like, "Oh man, I got to get ready for a game." And I was like, "Oh, I got to get ready to go officiate." And I was like, "Hey man, like what court are you playing?" He was like, "Oh, I think I'm playing on 2." And I go, "Oh, I'm reffing on 2. What time's your game?" And he was like, "I think he's at like 7." I went, "That's my shift." So we might have had a little bit of a scandal on our hands, but I just said
we colluded.
I just said, hey, Rob, just take it to the basket. I got you. And literally the first play of the game, Rob took it to the basket, sells the hell out of the foul. Just, no! Yeah, and I called that a foul. And the other team was not happy with a lot of the officiating that night, but it was still a great time.
Yeah, needless to say, I got my points that night. Shout out to AJ's biased reffing skills. I definitely appreciated it. Yeah, but yeah, we had some great times at the Texas Tech Rec. There was a lot of good victories, a lot of tough defeats, those fights.
Those stories will come out during this podcast.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
We'll definitely talk about it, but. I think it's a great segue time to kind of veer into some Spurs.
Yes.
Some Spurs chat.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. Now
this fathead Tim Duncan.
Of course. Shout out to the GOAT himself, Tim Duncan. We need to talk about life after Dejounte.
Sure.
So as any diehard Spurs fan would recently kind of feel, you're feeling that departure because our best player just left
right before he hits his prime too.
Right, and he's still so young. He's got lots of time to improve, but at the same time, is he the player that we were going to build around long term? I think that's the main question. So it's where do the Spurs go after Dejounte, and do all these picks we got, are those going to lead to our success, or what does this foundation look like?
That's a great question. I think we need to start with, did we go after Ayton, and did he say no?
That's good. I mean, I think that the Spurs definitely put out a couple of feelers to him, but I think that the Spurs, like a lot of other people, kind of realize Ayton's a really good piece, but I don't think he's worth the amount of money that
it's fair. Yeah.
that he's essentially going to be bringing in,
and that's a lot of money.
He's gonna be worth a lot of money, and in my opinion, he's not a franchise big.
That's fair.
He's not a big that you can put down low and be like, oh yeah, I'm good. I have my rim protector. I have my down low offense. I still think that he's got a couple of things to improve in order to make me believe that he's that guy. So I think if we were looking at him, I don't know if we looked at him seriously.
It might have been like hey, how do you feel about San Antonio? And he was like, no.
Yeah, because we're like, you've played for small market teams before.
Because I think that's where you need to start the conversation is, if we went after Ayton and Ayton said no, or we couldn't get any numbers to work or whatever, then I think that kind of leads you to go, okay, so we're not going to get a big free agent. Doesn't look like we're going to get any. There's really nothing available this year. We have an opportunity to offload Murray. Hey, Murray, you going to sign with us long term? I don't think so.
Yeah, he literally said, I don't want to sign with y'all long term. I will not re-sign. And people are still mad that we got rid of him. I'm like, the dude didn't want to be here.
Well, it's not only that. As a Spurs organization, you know how we are. We don't want to deal with drama outside of basketball. So the fact that he was a Clutch Sports client, I think had a lot to do with it as well. Yeah. I think having to deal with Rich Paul, I think the Spurs were just like, you know what, we're not going to do that. Like we're good the way we are. Let's go ahead and offload Dejounte. We'll save a bunch of money. We'll get some picks in return. I understand why people are mad, because then you kind of put in, maybe I don't know if this is really true, but I know that some Spurs fans feel that we're getting rid of young players before their prime. And if you come to the Spurs, you're not going to get that long-term extension. But also, as an organization, you got to look long-term. Like, you can't look like next year we're not winning anything. The year after we're not winning anything. Like, we're not in title contention. We're not on the cusp. Like, we barely made a play-in game. And if Dejounte was that dude, I don't want to be rude, but if he was that dude, we would have won the play-in game. He would put the team on his back and at least won one. Yeah. One. I get it was in New Orleans. It was against a Pelicans team that gelled very quickly after CJ McCollum. CJ was a monster that game. I get it, but if you're that dude and you're wanting that $200+ million, you're gonna go get that playing game.
Yeah.
So, and I think that game. I don't know if that game really did anything, but for me, that's where I stand. I'm totally cool with it. I think it's a great trade. I wouldn't be surprised if we trade Jakob shortly. I don't know if this is going to be before the season, but I would say he doesn't see the end of the season in the Spurs jersey. That's just my opinion.
I kind of hope for that, to be brutally honest, because he is a rim protector who still has good value.
Yeah.
And he could go to a team and maybe not be their best rim protector, but be somebody that comes in off the bench or be a sort of a side piece to somebody who's a little bit more established. And then that could be their entire down low defense.
Yeah, he's the garbage man.
He's a great complementary piece, but
Yeah.
but there's no way that he can be a franchise big and be your main down low front court option. There's absolutely no way.
No, and just I get the frustration, but I mean, on the bright side, we got to look at this. We're gonna get some really cool Spurs merchandise, and I mean, it's gonna be fun to see what things they come up with, because back when the Big Three were around, we didn't really get a lot of merchandise because we were selling out games. Yeah. Now they're not selling out games.
No.
So like, it's not even close.
It is so weird. Whenever I went to the Spurs Mavs game last year, and like there was maybe like 2/3 of the place was packed, and I was like, it's the Spurs Mavs. Like this used to be a game where you wouldn't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Like, it was a situation where you would yell, you kind of get in some scuffles with all the Dallas people that would come down, and
100%,
and you would kind of enjoy that environment, that chippiness, and to kind of feel like that wasn't there anymore is strange.
I remember going to the Alamo Dome when I was like probably 7 or 8 or so. It was back when Degeneration X was big, and we were playing the Mavs in the Alamo Dome, and I told some dude to suck it, and I was like, give him the job. And he was like in his probably 30s or 40s, and he was like, hey, and I was like,
things you can get away with.
Yeah, things you can get away with. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of. It'd be interesting to see how we end up. I guess growing from this and moving forward. I know you have the draft picks pulled up.
Yeah, that kind of remains a mystery. Like, where are the Spurs going to go from here? So we have a good amount of picks in the future. We've got 3 picks in 2023. We've got a couple of picks in 2024. Where do you think we're going to go from here? Life after Dejounte is kind of crazy.
It is crazy because we've never been in this position before. We've never been in a position where, we are, I guess, openly tanking. I mean, let's be real. Like that's what it is. Because there's no, I mean, but going back to it, Dejounte's just not that dude, and it's fine. He's going to be a great player. Like there's going to be a lot of Spurs fans that are going to be pissed off whenever he ends up going somewhere, or maybe even with the Hawks, where they get another piece or two, and he's in the finals and he wins one, and a lot of Spurs are going to be mad. And I get it; it's fine. But long term, if we're like, this is my best case scenario. Like, this is me throwing a Hail Mary out. This is me doing a full court Jerry West heave and hoping it goes in for overtime.
Yeah.
But for me, we tank next year. We get Victor as the number 1 pick. And I mean, if we don't, if we get a top 5, that'd be great, because I think next year's draft is pretty top heavy.
I will shave my beard if we get Victor. I will shave my beard, TikTok, if we get Victor.
Oh, well. Heard it here first. Breaking news. If we get Victor, then we have someone we can build around. Then we have an international player that's really, really well skilled, someone who has played against some really good competition. I know that there's a lot of comparisons between him and Chet. I'm personally not on board with Chet because I watched college basketball. I followed it very closely. And whenever he played Texas Tech and whenever he played I think it was Arkansas and Memphis, when the level of competition got better, he just became a player. He didn't stand out the way that I thought he was. Victor, on the other hand, he's playing against grown men overseas. He's been a professional since we're like 16, 17 years old.
Yep.
He's been playing internationally too. So, and also we have a pretty good track record with some Frenchmen.
We do. We certainly do.
So
yeah, there's a lot to like about his game. I think when you look at his size and his frame and his wingspan, obviously he's going to draw Chet comparisons. But I think that he's Chet but better. He's Chet but a little bit quicker, a little bit more polished, a little bit
longer.
A little bit more, you're right, longer in terms of wingspan, most certainly.
Yeah.
And I feel like he is a little bit more level-headed. Some of the stuff I'm seeing from Chet,
It's fair.
He's made some outrageous statements, and I love the confidence. He's made all kinds of statements like, I'm going to be the best player next season. He's said that I will be a 50, 40, 90 guy in the NBA. And he's made some really bold claims. So I'm curious if he's going to back it up.
But then he got worked by Kenny Lofton Jr.
He did. But I feel like that's like an extreme example.
Yeah.
Kenny Lofton Jr. is one of those like bruiser, old school powerhouse guys that is going to be able to work him. There's not too many guys in the NBA that have that kind of weight. But
True.
But there's a lot of
True.
There's quite a bit of guys who have that strength.
Yeah, there are a lot of men.
Yes. There's a lot of grown men that are going to be able to kind of flex on him a little bit whenever he's going up against, even a guy like Gobert. Even Gobert, who's super thin, is going to be able to flex on him,
push him around a little bit,
use his size and physicality.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Chuck's a great player. I think he's going to be in the NBA a long time. I think he's going to be good. I just don't think he's your top 5 pick, franchise changing player. That's just my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, I would prefer Victor.
Yeah, for sure. So ideally, we get him first. The next year, we become a decent team, maybe back to where we were this year, like 30 wins, give or take. Something we can build around. Now you have Devin Vassell. Hopefully he stays. Kendall Johnson, who stays. Those guys are now like legit veterans that have added to their game since coming into the league. And then also we have Sochan. Hopefully he works out. I'm still not sold, but
yeah, I'm not sold on Sohan at all.
And we'll see what happens there. I know we're gonna get a lot of heat for that, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I think I understand why we did it. He's probably the most polished at number 9, which is great, but I don't see the physicality. They say he's a Boris Diaw Rodman hybrid. Sure.
Well, Boris Diaw and Rodman were such different players. I understand that they're trying to say that he can rebound and he can distribute and he kind of does a little bit of everything. But in my opinion, you have to be an insanely high IQ player to be compared to Boris Diaw.
Oh, for sure.
Boris Diaw was one of the smartest big men I ever saw play the game.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to make himself so effective, and he was out of shape.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because of his IQ.
Yeah, well, I mean, just watching him, whenever we played against him when he was with the Suns, like, that dude was a problem.
He was.
Because you had 2 passers on the court in Nash and Boris. And if they're running a pick and roll, like, anyone can be open. Like it was hard to guard,
yeah,
for sure. But so ideally, after we draft Victor, we get have a decent season. Maybe I don't think we're being a play-in or anything, but I think we'll have like an okay season. Get another draft pick. No, by this time it's like 2024, 25. Yeah.
In 2025, we have 2 first rounders and 2 second rounders.
So ideally, we're still kind of in the top 15, top 10, top 15 draft area. We get some good pieces again. And then in 26, 27 or 25, 26, we maybe make the playoffs, maybe make a play-in, maybe shock some people and win a game or two. Just kind of like one of those up-and-coming young teams that might just have someone's number that's kind of on the fence. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe like the Nuggets, like kind of towards the end of their era, and like we just play faster and they can't keep up, kind of thing. I'm just throwing things out.
Right. No,
but
I love it.
We've seen it happen several times. Several times before. So maybe we shock some people, and then by then that leads us to going into your 25, 26 season. Or 26, 27. But regardless, hopefully we're in that time frame. And so whenever we have these picks, when they're coming out, from this Dejounte trade, it could be two things. It could be one, we need to add someone from the draft that kind of completes this young team, a la Nuggets. Like I love the Nuggets, by the way.
Absolutely, they have such a complete team.
They did it the perfect way. They did it through the draft. They did it through trades. They did it through signees. I think they're a great squad. And if we can be like them, I guess in 2026, that would be perfect, because then we have these picks, so we could either draft somebody and put on a project to make this thing go longer, or we start talking to some teams about trading picks for a disgruntled superstar who wants a championship. It might be Dejounte.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
At that point, it could be. You never know.
So, and then someone that wants a ring, that wants to win, they see the talent, and they kind of they're able to fill in, kind of like the Chris Paul almost.
Yeah.
Someone that
I can see that
kind of just comes in and just kind of closes the circle, and then you see us in the championship, maybe 1 or 2 years, they ride off in the sunset, and we have still some young guys that hopefully will become a next big three, or we see their jerseys in the rafters at the end of their career. But the tough part about that is it's still San Antonio.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard to get free agents in San Antonio, or just anyone in San Antonio.
You just bring up the biggest point. It's becoming such a players' league, and people aren't seeing the value in San Antonio like they did a decade, 2 decades ago. And I love the optimism about your rebuilding plan.
Appreciate it.
I think
straight from Brian Wright too.
I would love to think it's just going to take a few years for the rebuild, but unfortunately, I think I see it happening a little bit longer. I think it's probably going to take along the lines of maybe a full decade, because I think we're going to see a really, really large crater whenever Pop leaves. He's gonna leave behind an absolute hole. Because right now he's the only thing that we're clinging onto in terms of our identity.
Yeah,
he is our sole identity.
Well,
and it's really tough to really move forward and know how long that rebuild's going to take until he leaves. And so, I mean, and who knows when that's going to be?
Yeah.
We can't kick him out the door
for sure. And if you know anything about San Antonio, nostalgia is king.
Yes.
So the fact that he's still there and he's been in all the championship, that's the one thing that one of my pet peeves was saying with the Spurs organization, or just in general, is that there's just a lot of nostalgia, and we cut ties or we do things a few years too late. I'm surprised Pop's still coaching at this stage.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with our rebuild. I should have happened 3 years ago. But I get it. We're trying to put butts in seats. We're trying to win some games. But I mean, well, what happens after Pop leaves? Because then that kind of throws our monkey wrench in our 10-year plan. Because I don't think he's going to be coaching for 10 years.
No, he certainly won't be coaching for 10 years. But I can't see him leaving until there's an obvious there's an obvious plan in place. We have to have some coach that's been with us for a couple of years, and maybe that's why we brought Brett Brown back.
Yeah,
a guy who has gone off, who has been a coach under Popovich, has gone off, had head coaching experience, albeit fairly so head coaching experience. He had mixed success.
I think a lot of it has to do with his players, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a completely different topic. But let's but he could still be that guy where he can segue us into that next era. I think he has that coaching experience. You've been around Popovich enough. You absorbed that winning mindset enough to be a quality head coach, because as we know, Greg Popovich disciples, they're all over the NBA.
No, they're everywhere.
You could look at Mike Budd. I mean, you could look at Monty Williams. You could look at
Mike Brown.
Yeah, Mike Brown. Taylor Jenkins,
Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, Quinn Snyder. We're
Steve Kerr, if you want to throw it out there.
Steve Kerr, Udoka. It's we're talking about a lot of coaches who have benefited.
Becky Hammond is tearing it up in the WNBA.
Yes, I mean, I was on a podcast just last month and talking about how I wish we didn't get rid of her, because
I wish we didn't either.
I think that she should have been somebody who was helped guiding the organization after Pop left. I would have loved to see her play a meaningful role.
She's crushing it right now, and the fact that she went back to, I guess, kind of her her home team because she was with the Silver Stars. Stars moved to Las Vegas, and now Las Vegas has their own team. It's kind of cool to see her go back there. Also, I'm a huge Kelsey Plum fan. Yeah. Huge Kelsey Plum fan. So, what's up, Kelsey? I like your stuff on Instagram. That's about it. That's the only interaction I get.
At least you're honest. But yeah, it's absolute craziness. Where the Spurs are going to go, really, no one knows. Only time will tell. I think for the next few years, we do know it's going to be brutal. I mean, it's going to be rough to watch. We're not going to have a lot of really strong playoff pushes. So.
It's going to be a lot of 82 games of summer league, essentially.
Yes,
it's going to be a lot of turnovers. There's going to be a lot of good things that come out of it for sure.
Absolutely.
But what's great is that we're a small market. These guys can, kind of do what they want. They can fail as much as they want. No one's going to really care. The expectations are not very, very high. So that's what makes it fun, is that they're going to be able to learn kind of on their own. But let me ask you this. For the coaching situation, would you rather have like a Brent Brown type guy who's been in the league for a while, who's a coach under Pop, or someone that's more like an Eric Spoelstra type guy that came up from, the video guy and kind of worked his way up the bench in the organization, who's, kind of has a good head on her shoulders, but just never had the opportunity. And so we have another longevity type coach. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of mixed bag on it, but at the end of the day, I think I would rather have the guy that has coached under Popovich and has played a meaningful role at his side, because just having been a player, I understand how intimate that relationship is between head coaches and assistant coaches, and they are attached at the damn hip.
Yeah,
and so somebody like Brett Brown, I feel like he's absorbed enough of Popovich to where if Popovich was like, hey, can you kind of keep this thing that we have going? And I think that Brett Brown would have that mindset and be able to do that. And I feel like he also has absorbed enough of the Spurs way of life, even outside of basketball, in terms of just caring about players on a outside of the basketball level and wanting to know how individuals are motivated and how they tick, and so he can kind of keep that same culture that has nothing to do with really playing on the court, and I think that's kind of what we need to get back to, is that where we're the Spurs organization that is a model franchise, right, versus just another good basketball team, because I think that in itself is something we're kind of getting away from. Is that Spurs culture. So I think Brett Brown or somebody like that who has seen what the true Spurs organization looks like, I think they'll be more ready to take those reins rather than somebody that's kind of come up through the ranks in an unconventional way.
Let me ask you this one: Brent Brown or Avery Johnson?
I mean, either one. Another guy I also think is a dark horse sleeper would be Jay Wright, former coach of Villanova, who coached under Popovich in the 2020 Olympics.
That would be solid.
And Coach Popovich was raving about him, was saying, like, I love the conversations I had with Jay Wright. He has had enormous success with a large organization in NCAA. I could easily see his level-headedness and his basketball mind translating to a Spurs team, and so I wouldn't be upset about going that route either.
I wouldn't be mad of taking a flyer from college.
No,
I know that Bill Self's been kind of mentioned a couple of times as well, because of that relationship with RC and stuff like that.
That's definitely a route I wouldn't want to sort of gloss over either. No. I think those are very real options.
I mean, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, ideally, we get someone who is just ready to play. My biggest pet peeve about some of these drafts is everyone's a project, no matter if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why I think back in the day, like in the 80s and 90s, when you had top picks, like they were ready.
Yeah.
Because they were 3-4 years in college. They got to work on their game. They understand, some intricate offenses, defenses, schemes, things like that. And I mean, now it's like, well, he has a lot of potential. Like, that's always the end of the conversation for some of these picks. And, I mean, have there been some great picks? Absolutely. But ones that franchise-changing players don't come very often, and I feel like they're not coming at all anymore. Like, I feel we just have a lot of good players.
Yeah.
A lot of really good players, but, like, franchise-altering players that take a team in the gutter and take them to, like, a playoff. Kind of like Kevin Garnett with the Timberwolves or something like that. Yeah. Like, I just don't see it. You just don't see that happen much anymore. Typically, it's like the people that do that have a decent size or decent team already, and they just kind of get them over the hump to the next step.
Right. I mean, it's like whenever we drafted Kawhi. I mean, like, we already had a good team.
Yeah.
We already had a very established team, so he could kind of just come in, play a really sizable role, and then improve to the point where, you know, he could become the man slowly, and that was really good for him. But you hit the nail on the head. He went to a team that was already established and was already successful.
Right.
And so there's a lot of these players. They're not ready to go to a bad team and take them to the promised land.
Yeah,
they're just not. They're not built like that.
Like, I love Paolo Banchero.
Yeah.
Love him. I love his game. Love his length. Love his shot. He's probably the most polished I've seen come out in a long time.
He looks great.
He looked amazing.
Yeah.
But he's not going to take the Magic to the playoffs this year or next year. Like, it's a long road ahead for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the draft. It can make you cry in both ways. It can make you sad, make you happy.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so let's segue into the final part of the podcast, which will be our first player comparison. We do player comparisons, a current player and a legendary player. And one of the most popular ones that we've been seeing on TikTok has been Larry Bird and Kevin Durant. And as Kevin Durant's career has been unfolding, I've seen this comparison more and more. So let's just go ahead and dive on into some of the numbers, shall we?
Yeah.
So points per game, Larry Bird all time. We have 24 points per game. Kevin Durant a little bit over 27. Rebounds, Larry Bird 10, Kevin Durant 7. Assists, we have Larry Bird at 6, Kevin Durant at 4. Steals, Larry Bird beats him a little bit all time, 1.7 against 1.1. And blocks per game is pretty equal. And their percentages are insanely close. I mean,
it's a great comparison.
They have the exact same field goal percentage, 49.6.
Whoa.
The exact same field goal percentage. Their 3-point percentage is only 0.08 off.
Really?
And their free throw percentage is 0.002.
Holy
off.
hell! Then the comparison's definitely warranted.
Absolutely, it's a very, very good comparison. And even when you look at their accolades, it's pretty close too. Larry Bird 3 rings, Kevin Durant 2. It's very close. So I guess all of these numbers. Sorry, I'm throwing a bunch at you.
No, you're good.
It makes me beg the question: who has had the better career? Because Kevin Durant's getting into his 14th, just played 14 seasons. Larry Bird played 13 seasons, so it's a very similar amount of work.
Sure.
Who, in your opinion, is better during that time?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So knee-jerk reaction, Larry Bird. But if you're going with like straight skill, I think KD definitely takes the cake on that. But the thing about Larry Bird is the work ethic and his just overall, swag that he had. Like, he just had the most confidence out of any player in the entire NBA that's probably ever played, in my opinion. Like, you got to think about this. Would we know who Indiana State was if it wasn't for Larry Bird?
No.
Would we be talking about the Sycamores ever?
Probably not.
No, never. Like, and the fact that Larry Bird took Indiana State, who I don't think they've done anything since then, took them to the NCAA championship. I mean, they ended up losing to Magic, but that also set off the rivalry of Magic versus Bird, and Bird won those championships against Magic. So I think, he didn't go to the Lakers when he could have. to go win a championship.
That's true.
So
Larry Bird never switched it up.
I mean, also Larry Bird, like the stories that you hear about Larry Bird are so just mind blowing. Like they're just so mind blowing. Like I don't want to waste my right arm today, so I'm gonna shoot with my left.
Yeah.
And like drops 35 no problem, or just calling his shots like, hey, I'm gonna do 40 tonight, and then just pull me out, and then he'll score 40, and then he's sitting out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like the one of my favorite stories, Sean Elliott tells it. Sean Elliott made like a jump shot, and it hit the rim and the backboard, then went in. And on the way running back, Larry Bird was like, "That shouldn't have counted. It's nothing but net or nothing." And just the stories that he has, and the fact that he learned how to play left-handed by literally tying his hand behind his back and just dribbling with his left hand.
That just says everything about Larry and his dedication and his drive.
His drive was insane. I mean, the dude won a 3-point contest in his warm-ups.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not just won it, he dominated that 3-point contest. What did he make, like 27 out of 30 or some crazy number like that?
Yeah, I can't remember the actual number, but yeah, it's insane the things that Larry was able to do out there on the court, even when he was at his later stages and having back problems. But yeah, we're talking about a guy who was 3-time MVP against KD's 1 MVP. Like, people forget, Larry Bird also made 3 All-NBA defensive teams. KD hasn't made one his entire career. And I think that kind of speaks volumes as well. So it's
and Larry was a great passer.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He has almost twice the amount of assists per game that KD has. And people sleep on the fact that Larry Bird is the best rebounding small forward ever. There is literally no other small forward that has averaged 10 rebounds a game for their career.
For sure.
He is the best rebounding small forward ever, even over LeBron. I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Larry Legend runs deep, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. KD is a great player. Like, he's a generational player. Like, you know, we can get into this another time, but I still don't know how he got to UT. Just want to throw that out there.
Right.
But he's a great player. Great talent. I mean, you can't speak enough about KD, but when it comes to who do you want taking the last shot kind of situation for the championship, I'm dialing up 3-3.
Yeah, I'm gonna want Larry Legend.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And there's nothing. KD's, like I said, KD's a great player, but I think all of his off the court shenanigans and Twitter wars and calling out Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith and all this other stuff, it's just a turnoff. And Larry would have done it on the court. Yeah. And like he would have made he would have had a 50 piece and be like, "That's for you, Skip." Like, and that would be like the end of the conversation.
Right.
So, just all of his extra stuff. I mean, going to the Warriors, I get why he did it, but I mean that definitely, it's a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths. And those championships, I never want to put an asterisk by a championship, but I would say, we've seen him on other teams, and he hasn't been able to duplicate what he did with the Warriors.
Yeah. I think you're bringing up a really excellent point. Whenever Larry was the man on his team, there was nothing that was going to stop Larry from winning a championship. And it seems like people in different teams have been able to derail KD in his solo attempts to win championships. So he's had to go to teams that are already established, like the Warriors. And going to teams where he knows other superstar players are going to be, teaming up with everyone at the Nets.
Are you surprised the Nets thing didn't work out?
I'm not surprised at all, because it's not about skill, and that's what I've gotten so many damn arguments on TikTok with people that it's not all about talent. You can't just shove these talented players together.
For sure.
The personalities have to fit, because there's one basketball. These guys are going to have to share one ball at the end of the day, and if there's different mentalities and there's different motivations out there, you are going to have players literally that are getting in conflicts out there on the court, and you're gonna have players that are gonna feel that they're dissatisfied with their role if they're not getting the ball enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you were seeing, and they only ended up playing 50-something games together.
Yeah, I mean, they were also injured the entire time, and
right.
I mean,
we're not able to play because of not being vaccinated.
Yeah, that's another thing too. So I mean, like, I just it sucks that they didn't give. I think they could have worked it out personally, but it just sucks that it just didn't pan out the way you thought it was going to be. But all in all, to say Larry Bird is a great player. His GM skills are a little questionable.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. The only reason I could see someone taking KD is KD has 4 scoring titles, which is amazing. Like four scoring titles is the third highest in NBA history, only behind MJ and Wilt. So when you look at it like that's pretty impressive. His ability to score the ball is insane.
He can do it. He can do all of it.
Insane.
He can do all of it. But the counter argument to that would be, well, how many points was Larry Bird scoring? How many, like, in those days? It was like 75, 78. Like it wasn't 120.
You're absolutely right. There's so much context behind that. But I think it does still speak volumes that in a league of scorers, KD is the king scorer.
Yeah.
He is the best scorer
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you guys get a chance, definitely look up some of those Larry Legend stories because they are hilarious and they're awesome, and it just shows you the cojones that guy has. Like, it is it is insane.
Oh yeah.
I've been down a rabbit hole a few times, and man.
Oh yeah.
They're fun.
Oh yeah, Larry Legend's a beast. So yeah, we are both in agreement. Larry Legend over Kevin Durant. I think that's about it for the podcast. I think that's a solid episode 1. Thank you all for watching the first episode of the Baseline Bum podcast. This is Rob, aka B-Ball Archives. This is my boy AJ, and we are out.
Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go. Peace.